them, and they're hiring illegal aliens, and they're hiring foreigners, and they're hiring criminals, and they're hiring them all. If you get down to the bottom of the article, again, you can see the different newscasts and links where they are not even doing the background checks. But that's okay, because, you know, this is the front line of defense. They're running your ticket. They're putting you on no-fly list, no judge or jury. But the actual criminals, they're going to commit more crimes groping your family. See, it's a total criminal design. Can you be a police officer with a criminal record? No. Can you be a TSA minion and break the law as a criminal? Yes, because only criminals will do the job. Hitler, Stalin, Pol Pot, all of them hire criminals. Our dose, broadcasting worldwide. I'm Alex Jones, your host. The websites are prisonplanet.tv. We're streaming live video of the radio/TV show that you're listening to right now on XM 166, on global shortwave WWCR, on over 100 AM and FM affiliates across the United States, and number one when it comes to talk radio, podcast, and audio streams at the listen button section of Infowars.com and Prisonplanet.com. All right, I want to take a lot of calls this hour into the next. But right now, let me give you a smattering of some of the news coming up. CBS News is reporting TSA hired accused sex abuser, priest, pedophile, and screener. He stepped down after 3 girls said he did you-know-what to him. Oh, boy. And, I mean, it's every couple days they catch him doing stuff with kids or kidnapping kids or whatever. I mean, this is insane. Also, we're going to be playing the clip where they go confront. He's the head guy over the main gate area. Oh, he's the commander, of course. And we also have links to mainstream news admitting what we reported on years ago. They just ignore the background checks now. Again, because there's terrorists everywhere, but let's just ignore background checks and let's hire illegal aliens and all the rest of it. It's total theater, but not theater to make you feel safe. Theater to train you that you're a slave and have no Fourth Amendment and there's no jurisdiction the feds can't be in. Then also, Canada's Maple Spring hits fever pitch, but risk becoming neutralized by the globalist. Patrick Henningsen has a report on that. Syria, Yemen, and America's quest for imperial dominance. Yeah, you mean the bankers that run America, setting up imperial dominance using al-Qaeda. Australians face huge fines for speaking ill of new carbon tax, 1.1 million Australian. I'm not kidding. There's links to Australian newspapers. If you say it's bad, you're arrested, and you get $1 million fine. Oh, I thought that was free speech. I mean, that's like communist China or worse. Warren Buffett's buying up newspapers, eyeing internet paywalls for content. And they already had companies try this and get countersued into oblivion. But they go out, and they even try to say a paragraph of an article that you post and link to so you can say, hey, here's the article. That's how it started with talk radio hosts 15, 20 years ago, having websites, is you wanted to show people what you were going to talk about that day. Like, go look at this, tell me what you think. You get traffic, they get traffic. In fact, in the old days, when they knew what they were doing, they would send it out and say, please post a couple paragraphs of this and link to us. Not anymore, because no one wants to read their garbage anyway. So what they're saying is Warren Buffett says he's going to sue everybody. So it's just pure harassment. Already hundreds of newspapers, ABC News, you name it, are paid by the Bill and Melinda Gates, half of it's Warren Buffett's money, are paid to write great articles about how he likes ice cream cones and loves the children. That's literally the PR, what they say. Not joking. And Bill and Melinda Gates are superheroes. That's what they pay for them to say. That's the psyop they came up with. Oh, look, he wants to tax the rich people because he's the biggest recipient of bailout money individually, your tax money. And he wants more of it. He says, get the rich man. He means somebody making $125,000 a year. So we're going to be going over that. You've got Politico, Washington Post, and others basically saying Obama is done for. So I think Dr. Corsi and Dr. Tarpley and so many others are right. The system is getting ready to flush Barack Obama down the toilet. But the issue here is Mitt Romney. Why do they want him? Because he can at least get conservatives to go back to sleep who are waking up. He likes carbon taxes, open borders, all the rest of it. He helped write Obamacare. Bain Capital, that he's still one of the biggest owners of, is the big funder of Obama. But it's time to put a new front man in. So things are shifting towards Mitt Romney. And suddenly all the conservatives that don't like anti-gun stuff and all this, they're going to suddenly love it. Because, hey, Mitt Romney's white. That's a big part of it. You know, people learn to hate folks. Everybody learned to hate Bush, and then they gave you Obama. He was the savior. He was the Christ. They actually said that in the news. So that's coming up. By the way, the toll-free number to join us is 800-259-9231. I have a question for you. Is there anything the American people won't put up with? Is there anything? Because a lot of people are getting mad about TSA and just not flying, so their answer is, we'll just be on the street corners. We're coming after you. We're coming after your children, like Sodom and Gomorrah. They're coming to the door, banging. Bring them out. Bring them before us. Federal grants for checkpoints, taking blood. Always excuses for the tyranny. 30,000 drones, all of it. Now that every few days, because I check it every few days, and there's always a new article about another TSA agent arrested, raping a woman, raping a child, statutory rape with a 13-year-old, selling drugs, robbing people's bags, stripping their clothes down naked, running through the airport, screaming, I'm God. By the way, I'm not joking. Type in TSA agent, goes insane, says he's God, arrested. Why has it happened multiple times? It's a certain type. A lot of them aren't pedophiles. They just like bossing people around all day. I mean, if I got somebody, out at my house to do yard work, I remember growing up working for a couple different golf courses, and I would watch these golfers boss the greenskeepers around and get off on it. And I was always embarrassed for them. And I've seen that, people love to boss the handyman around. People love to chew out the person but then those of us that are nice, because all these clerks and people are getting treated so bad, they turn into monsters, and then they're rude to us, and then we put up with it. I mean, thank you. You get like double a tip from me now. And by the way, I used to be a big tipper. When I say thank you, if you don't say you're welcome, you don't get a tip. And everybody says no problem. Really, I say thank you, and it's no problem. If you don't want this service job, don't take it. Now, you go to a nice restaurant, it's thank you. Because they're successful people. Some of those waiters are making more than doctors at steakhouses and places. You have a problem. But I couldn't imagine having somebody at my house doing yard work and talking down to them and chewing them out and bossing them around. That is so embarrassing. But losers, I've always noticed, losers enjoy it. It's one thing if you got to get in somebody's face because they keep screwing up or there's problems, there's frustration. But I'm talking about people that jump on people and mess with them and play games for their power trip. That's what tyrannies are. This is key what I'm about to say, so listen to me, please. The essence of tyranny and all its flavors is that it's people who are corrupt combining forces together to control and dominate those that are producing. And that means producing beauty, producing literature, producing science, art, success. They're parasites. And they have a million excuses for what they do. They have a system they always push of how it's for your own good. It's the same throughout history. We only live 75 years on average, folks. We repeat the same stuff. We store up knowledge, and then we die, and the next generation has to experience it again instead of learning from past generations. But here's the essence of what I'm trying to say. Tyranny is a system of losers who get together as a gang to take over so they can have status and power, not because they earned it, but because they stole it. And I've always noticed the difference between a winner and a loser. Winners admire honorable success, admire beauty, admire strength, admire. I mean, I remember my dad bought me a dirt bike when I was a little kid. So I'd already had a moped. And the neighbor kids had always had four-wheelers and all these great dirt bikes. And I was always thinking it was cool. They never let me ride on them. And they came over and were so jealous, and then later I left it out and they knocked it over and stuff, that I had I mean, who cares? But then I realized about half the population is like that to degrees. They hate somebody who's worked and has a new car. They hate somebody who owns land. They hate beautiful people. I've always noticed, the easiest women to get a date with are the most gorgeous. If you just go over and are charming and talk to them nicely. Because everyone's either intimidated by them or they hate them. Women especially, a gorgeous woman walks in and women start talking trash about them, many women. And that's the spirit of the age. I mean, I see a guy with an absolutely knockout, gorgeous woman whose eyes have got electric fire in them. I just admire the human body and God's creation. And I start thinking about, boy, I bet they'll have some great kids and have a good family. I hope they have a good life. You know, that's the difference between Alex Jones and people that love liberty and people that, the globalists, when they talk about this at Bilderberg from our sources, and Tucker's confirmed this. The big point is, I can't believe there's enough money for there to be a bunch of protesters, even in the mountains of Switzerland. We've got to shut their economy off. But if we do it too fast, they'll revolt and overthrow us. We've got to do it incrementally so they're so poor they can't be here. Poverty has always been a tool of the ultra-rich. They always are monopoly men. Competition is a sin to them. And they team up with the low-level rabble scum, put them in bureaucratic uniforms, police uniforms, all of this, and build them as their army over everyone. And so we know this design, we know this signature, we know this wavelength, we know what's growing and now coming to completion. And they've studied tyranny, and they know it always falls, so they've given it a skeletal exoskeleton of technology, but it's still got the same spineless chicken neck spirit at its core. It will fall, it will rot, it will implode, it will backstab itself into oblivion. From the foundations of the earth, it was doomed to fall upon completion, and it's already begun to collapse as they try to, at light speed, build on top of the new castle in the sand as it implodes. We got to create a graphic of a sandcastle collapsing, a globalist sandcastle that the little goblin's building by the seashore, and as it's falling, they're at light speed, like the Flash, going trying to build it. That's what they're doing. It's collapsing, and they're just trying to keep, instead of building it on the rock of liberty and freedom and goodness. Your calls are coming up. Banning free speech in Australia. More attack drone news. Bin Laden being exposed as the whole killing being fake. Huge amounts of key data on the economy. It's all coming up after your phone calls.
For a long time, you've heard me talk about building your own food supply.
We have a lot of listeners in the United Kingdom, Scotland, England, Wales, Ireland. John Bound earlier this week did the InfoWars Nightly News, did a great job. And I saw part of a newscast he saw where they half the people on CNN have a British accent and was bad-mouthing, you know, the Bill of Rights and Constitution. And I was saying, you know, why do we have all these globalist Brits on TV here? Imagine if there were all these Americans on TV over in England bossing them around and saying, turn your guns in. So John covered that on the Nightly News, and people took it as if he was bashing people in England. You know, Lord Monckton likes the Founding Fathers. The Parliament, over half, voted for the colonies in 1775 and 1776, till the King went and gave a speech, then they got behind the war. But our biggest supporters were in England. The Magna Carta came out of England. It's not America versus England. It's the globalists that have taken us all over. But condescending people with British accents all over our TV telling us what to do, I mean, it's terrible. And no one would like that over in England. You know, I have the Watson brothers because they're smart guys and love liberty. They work for InfoWars and Prisonplanet. But they absolutely hate the monarchy and the whole New World Order system. And, you know, I mean, I don't care what your accent is if you love liberty. It's just these are globalists. But I just thought that was an interesting issue to raise that. Okay, let's go to your phone calls. Julio, Mark, Shane, Blue, Don, and others. Just going to take calls the rest of the hour. Then coming up, the system's starting to go sideways on Obama, Australia banning free speech, and a lot more. That is all coming up today. Julio in Illinois. Julio, welcome.
Aloha, Alex. Aloha, everyone out there. I was at the NATO summit. I was inside McCormick Place, and I have to admit, that was the biggest controlled media operation I have ever seen in my entire life, and it goes to show you that corporate media, not just here in the States, but throughout Europe, really depend on government talking points to even...
No, you don't get into any of these things more than once if you don't regurgitate every word you're told.